Welcome to the channel. This is the first video in a full series all about Active Directory. To kick things off, I've created a complete lab topology that will break down step by step so you understand exactly how everything fits together. Then, using the topology as our roadmap, we're going to build our own Active Directory lab from the ground up. Each video in this series will focus on specific parts of Active Directory, so by the end, you'll not only know what it is, you'll actually understand how it all works in a real environment. In this first video, we're starting with the foundation, setting everything up and getting our domain controller ready. Here is the topology of the lab that we'll be setting up. It all revolves around the domain controller. It will provide a vital role in this lab. It will host Active Directory domain services. It will be responsible for NAT and also be a DHCP server that will assign our client an IP address when they log onto the network. There's a few things that we need to get started in this lab. First is a copy of Windows Server 2025 ISO, Windows 11 ISO, and the VirtualBox software. This will be the hypervisor and will allow us to create our virtual machines. In this lab, our domain controller is going to have two different network interface cards. The first one is going to be connected to an external network, basically my home network. This is how the server will reach out to the internet. I'm letting my home router automatically assign this NIC an IP address using DHCP so I don't have to manually configure it. The second NIC will be connected to an internal network that we've created inside of VirtualBox. Think of this as our own private little network where only the virtual machines in this lab can talk to each other. This is where our client computers will live too. Now, because this internal network won't have a router, we'll need to manually give this NIC a static IP address. I'll be using the IP address 172.16.0.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. You might notice that I'm not putting a gateway for this NIC, and that's on purpose. A gateway is only needed when traffic needs to leave the network and go somewhere else. This NIC is only for communicating inside the lab network, so it doesn't need one. For DNS, I'm going to be using the IP address 127.0.0.1, which is known as a loopback address. It always points right back to the same machine we're on. Since the server is going to be our DNS server, we're basically telling it when you need DNS, just use yourself. I could use the server's actual IP address, like 172.16.0.1, and that would work too. But using the loopback address has one extra advantage. It doesn't need to go through the network at all. It loops straight back internally, so it's fast and always reachable. Now let's quickly talk about the main roles this server will have so everything makes sense before we start building it. First, we're going to need to install Active Directory domain services. This is what turns the server into a domain controller. Active Directory is basically a database that stores users, computers, groups, and security settings for the whole network. Once it's installed, people can log in using domain accounts instead of local accounts. When we install Active Directory, we'll also have to create a domain name. In our case, we're going to be using the domain mydomain.com. Think of the domain as the identity of an entire network. Every user and computer will belong to this domain. Next, we'll configure NAT, which stands for Network Address Translation. Using the RAS, routing and remote access service role, the clients that are on the internal network can directly have access to the internet. NAT lets you share the server's external internet connection. Basically, the domain controller acts as a mini router for our lab. Next, we'll set up DHCP, which stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Instead of manually setting up IP addresses for every device, DHCP automatically gives an IP address, subnet mask, gateway, and DNS information to any device that joins the network, like our Windows 11 client. To sum it all up, Active Directory manages users and computers, DHCP hands out IP addresses, and NAT lets our clients reach the internet, all from one main server acting as the domain controller. To finish our lab topology, we'll create a Windows 11 virtual machine in VirtualBox and connect it to the Active Directory domain via the internal network. So that's the topology. It's a simple little network, but it's exactly what we need. Talking about it is one thing, but making it real is the best way to learn. Let's switch gears and move into the lab environment to start the installation. First thing that we're going to need to do is download our ISOs and our software for our hypervisor. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and head over to our browser. In my case, I'll be using Edge. If you just go to your search engine, type in Windows Server 2025 ISO. You'll get a link like this, click on it, and if you come down to download this ISO, click on here. It'll bring you to a screen like this. You're going to have to just fill out the information and push download. The next thing that we're going to need after the server ISO, we'll need to download Windows 11 ISO. So same as before, go to Google, type in Windows 11 ISO. You'll come to a page that looks like this. Click on Windows 11, click confirm, choose the language, in this case English, and click confirm. The next thing after the ISOs, we'll need to download our hypervisor software. So Google VirtualBox, you'll come to a screen that looks like this. We'll click download, and depending on the host computer OS, in my case, I'll be using Windows. Click this and download it and execute it. And then you'll also need a VirtualBox extension pack as well. So just accept and download. And after you've downloaded all that stuff, to make it easy on yourself, I would make an ISO folder on your desk and go from your downloads folder and drag those ISOs over here. I renamed them so I know exactly which operating system they are. Sometimes they come with weird names. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our VirtualBox. You'll come to a screen that looks like this. We're going to make our Windows 2025 server VM. Click New. For the VM name, we're going to name it DC for domain controller. For the ISO image, we're going to search for it on our desktop and click Windows Server 2025. Here, I'm going to unclick Proceed with Unintended Installation and click the correct OS version, which will be Windows Server 2025. For the memory, I'm going to give it 3 gigs. If you don't have that much, don't worry, you can use a gig. And then I'm also going to give it 4 cores. Next, go to my virtual hard disk. Default here was 50. I have enough to give it 100. And click Finish. Then click on General. Go to Features and click and bi-directional both on the shared clipboard and drag and drop. The shared clipboard means that you can copy and paste from the host machine into the VM, and drag and drop means that you can drag files from your host computer into the virtual machine. For me, you probably don't have to. I click this because it makes my virtual machine run better. I'm running my host computer here is actually a VM. So for our network, we're going to be using 2 different NICs like I had discussed in the topology. The first one's going to be a bridged adapter, and that's going to get its IP address from my home router. And we're going to then attach an internal network as well. Click OK on there. It looks good. So let's start up this. After this screen, everything looks good. Just like next, next. This is a clean install, so just click I agree and next. And in this, we'll choose the desktop experience because it gives us a GUI. If you don't choose the desktop experience, it's going to be a command line interface. Click accept. And we see the virtual hard drive that we had set up earlier, 100 gigs. Click next. Click install. This will take a while, so I'll speed it up. When it comes here, do not push anything or I'll put you back into the Windows setup. You get to this screen. This is for configuring our default administrator account for Windows Server. In this lab, we're going to be using an easy password. It's just going to be password 1 with a capital P. When you come to this screen, generally on virtual machines, Control Alt Delete doesn't work, so there's usually a special method. So just go up to Input, and go to Keyboard, and Control Alt Delete. We'll enter that password that we just established. On this, I'm going to scroll down and just click on Required Only and click Accept. Right now, we can just minimize these windows. As you can see, when I try moving the mouse, it's very laggy in the movements. Also, when I try resizing the window, it doesn't take effect. In order to fix these issues, we're going to install Guest Editions, which is a special driver package that will fix these issues. So after going to Devices and inserting there, we're going to click down to File Explorer. I'm going to click this PC and click on here. And we're going to install the AMD 64. Click Next, Next, Install. After this installs, it's going to have us restart the computer. And we'll click Finish with the Reboot Now clicked. After the restart, the mouse is moving smoother. Let's try resizing the screen. Sometimes it takes a few seconds. Okay, there it goes. Took a while, but now the window will resize. Let me try. So after restarting the computer, let's take a look at our network settings on this computer. So go to the search bar here. Let's type network connections. Let's click this view network connections here. Let's take a look at the first NIC here. Let's see which, we have two of them. One of the NICs is going to be for our external network, and one of the NICs will be for the internal. So let's right click the first one, click on status and details. You can tell right off the bat that this IP or that this NIC is going to be for our internal network. The reason I can see that is the IPv4 address starts with 169.254. This is an address that the computer gives itself when it can't find a DHCP server on the network. So I know this one's for our internal. So let's go ahead and close this. Click here and rename this connection. Let's just name it internal for the internal network. That didn't take, so let's try this. I just put an underscore network for Ethernet 2. Let's right click this, look at status and details. If I look at the IPv4 address, I can see that this is a standard private address range. So I know this is for our external connection, and this is an address that is assigned by the DHCP server that's on my router. Let's close this and rename this. We'll rename this NIC Internet. So we have Internet and internal. The next thing that we're going to do is let's rename this computer. So let's go ahead and right click the start button. Let's go to settings, scroll down to about, then click rename this PC. This is the current name of the PC, which is pretty complicated. Let's just name it DC. After pressing next here, it will prompt us to restart our computer. I'll fast forward this to speed up the process. One thing I did forget when we were naming our NICs was that we did not set up the static IP address on that internal NIC. So let's go up to View Network Connections here. Right click the internal. We can go to Properties. If we click this IPv4 protocol, let's click Properties. This is where we'll add the static IP address from our topology. The default gateway will be blank because this NIC is for internal communication. And then for the DNS, we're going to use that loopback address, that 127.0.0.1, and click OK here. And then we can close. So now we've set our static IP address on the internal. We renamed the NIC as internal, so we know this is for the internal communications. And then we have renamed the network NIC for our external communications. So let's go ahead and close this. The next thing that we're going to want to do is let's install Active Directory. Let's go to your server manager. Go ahead and pop this one back up. If that isn't there, you can always go down to your start. Generally, it'll be pinned here, so you can just click it from here to download Active Directory. You can either click on Add Roles and Features, or you can go up to Manage and Add Roles and Features here. Then we'll click Next. Keep it on role-based or feature-based installation. Click Next. You see here that it has our computer name, DC. It also has our two different NICs. This is the computer that we're going to want to install it on, so click Next. From here, we're going to want to click Active Directory Domain Services. We'll click here, click Next, and Next, and Next, and Install. Okay, now that it's completed, let's go ahead and close out of here. You'll see right here, we have a little icon. Let's go ahead and click here. And right now we've installed this Active Directory domain services software, but we haven't promoted this server to a domain controller and we haven't named our domain. So let's go ahead and click here. Here, we're going to click on Add a New Forest. And for our domain name, we're just going to use a simple one. It's going to be called mydomain.com. After typing that in, let's click Next. We will need to enter a password. We're just going to continue using the same password that we've been using throughout this lab, password 1. After typing that in, click Next, Next, and click Next, and click Next, and Next. We'll click Install. After the server has been configured as a domain controller, it will automatically restart. Now when we come to our login page, we can see our domain name, which is my domain, and that we're logging into the default administrator account. Let's go ahead and sign in. Now that we're logged back in, let's go ahead and create our own domain admin account instead of using that built-in administrator account. In order to do that, we need to go to Active Directory Users and Computers. There's a couple ways that we can go about getting there. If you're on the home screen, you can go to your Start. And if you have Windows tools pinned to your Start menu, you could just click on there. If not, just go to All Apps. And you can go down to Windows Tools here and click on here. If you want to pin it to your Start menu, you would just click here. I already have it pinned, so it can't do that. And then if you're on Server Manager here, you can go to Tools and we can go to Active Directory Users and Computers. So let's go ahead and click here and let's expand this. This is a topic that I'm going to be going over in a future video. It's on OUs. For this lab, just think of them as folders. So we are going to create a new folder for admin. So let's right click our domain and we're going to click new and we'll choose organizational unit. Let's unclick this protected container from accidental deletions. We don't need. And we'll just call it admins. Now that we have our OU created admins, let's create our user. Let's right click and click new and we'll click user. The user's name will be Charles. Its last name will be Bernie. For the login, we're going to use an A to represent admin, a dash, and C, Bernie, the first initial from his first name and his last name. Click next. Unclick this, and I'm going to say this password never expires. We'll use our standard password that we've been using in the lab, password 1. We'll click finish. Okay. Now that we have created our folder for admin, We put our user in there. Now we need to assign him to the domain admin group. So let's go ahead and right click Charles Burney. We'll go to properties. And if we go to member of, right now he's just a domain user. So let's go ahead and add. We'll go check name, click OK. Apply and OK. Okay, so let's log out of here and log back in with our new domain account. We'll sign out. We'll go ahead and click other user, and now we will enter in our username and password for the new domain account we just created. Now that we're logged in with our new account, let's go ahead and look at our topology. So first we set up our domain and we set up our domain name, which is mydomain.com. The next thing that we're going to be doing is installing ras/nat. So let's go back to the lab. And in order to do this, we need to install a new role. So let's go to click Manage, go to Add Roles and Features. We'll click Next, Next, Next. We'll go down to Remote Access right here. We'll click Next here, Next again, Next. We'll click Routing, the routing option, and click Add Features. By default, it automatically adds that one as well. Click Next, 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 and then we can install. Now that that role is downloaded, we need to enable NAT and routing services. This is going to let our clients on the internal network communicate with the outside world using the domain's IP address. Let's go down to Tools, and we will click Routing and Remote Access. Let's right-click that, and we will configure and enable routing. Click Next. We're going to click this one. This will allow internal clients to connect to the internet using our domain controller. Next. Generally, it's going to show us our two network interfaces, but it's not. So let's cancel this, go back into it. I might have to restart the computer. Now both NICs are showing on the wizard screen. It's asking for us to choose the NIC that will be connected to the internet. With us renaming the NICs, this makes it easy for us. I'm going to choose the nickname Internet and then select Next and Finish. And now we have a green tick on there showing that it's working. So let's exit out of here and let's go back to our topology. As we look at our topology, we've downloaded Active Directory, we've established our domain, we've installed the remote access role and enabled NAT. The next thing that we'll be going over is initializing our DHCP server. So let's get back into the lab. The next thing that we're setting up in this lab is our DHCP server. This is a crucial part of our network because it's responsible for automatically providing all of our internal clients with their IP configurations. That includes their IP address, their subnet mask, and most importantly, the default gateway, which in our setup will be the IP address of our domain controller. By having DHCP handle this automatically, we make device configuration fast, consistent, and error-free. Now, because we already have NAT enabled through our domain controller using remote access, our internal clients will be able to reach the internet even though they don't have a direct public connection. Instead, their traffic will route through the domain controller's gateway IP and be translated by NAT before going out to the web. So in short, DHCP gives our clients their identity on the network, and NAT makes sure that those clients can communicate outside the network securely and effectively. Let's go and click the Manage tab and click New Role. Click Next, Next. This is the server. We're going to click DHCP server. Click Add Features. Click Next, 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 and Install. Now that it's installed, let's close this. Let's go to Tools and go down to DHCP. Let's increase the size of that window. Let's expand my domain and then right click IPv4. We're going to select New Scope, click Next. Here we'll enter the name, use the scope range of the DHCP. Here we have entered the range in the DHCP name. Click Next. Here we'll enter the DHCP scope range. This will be the range of IP addresses the server can hand out to clients. and the subnet mask is 255.255.255. Now that we've created our DHCP scope with an IP range of 172.16.0.100 to 172.16.0.200, we also need to understand the subnet masks we assigned, which is 255.255.255.0. So what does it actually mean? Think of an IP address like a street address. Part of it tells you the neighborhood, that's the network, and the other part tells you which exact house you're going to, that's the host. The subnet mask is what tells the computer where the network portion ends and where the host portion begins. In our case, the mask is 255.255.255.0. Wherever you see that 255, that portion is reserved for the network. The zero at the end is where we can assign unique host IPs to devices. So with our subnet being 255.255.255.0, it means the network is 172.16.0, and the devices we assign live in that network using the last number. That's why our DHCP range is from 172.16.0.100 to 172.16.0.200. We're only changing the last part for different clients. To put it simply, the subnet mask defines the size of our network. It tells us all the devices must start with 172.16.0. Only the last number can change, and that's what gives each client its own address. Click Next. This is asking if there's any IP addresses that we want to exclude from that range. We do not. This is talking about the lease duration. If you're in a coffee shop and you only have a certain amount of IP addresses to hand out, you're probably not going to want it to be at eight days because that's just going to hold up quite a bit of IP addresses. So, but for a home lab, 8 days is fine. We only have a few computers being connected. So we'll click next. Yes. And this is the pretty much asking which address do you want to assign computers to try reaching out to the internet. Since we installed RAS, we're going to be using the domain controller's static IP address. So add here, click next. On here, this is asking us which IP address do we want to use for DNS. Right now, this is having my external NIC IP address. I don't want that because our domain controller is going to be DNS for this lab. We will enter in the domain controller static IP address 172.16.0 and 1. And let's add that. Click next. Don't need to do anything here. Do I want to add the scope now? Yes. Click finish. Now we want to authorize the scope. So let's go to the domain up here and let's click authorize. Then refresh this. Now we see the green check mark saying that this DHCP server is now active. So let's go ahead, close this. Now we're going to use a PowerShell script to add approximately 1,000 users to Active Directory. This method will significantly speed up the process compared to manually entering all these users yourself. I will explain each line of script so it makes it easier for you to understand and to help you grasp what each part does, so you're not overwhelmed. If you're still interested, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to need to do is open up PowerShell. So go ahead into your search bar and we'll just type in PowerShell. And we'll choose the PowerShell ISC and run it as an administrator. So just right click it and click Run as Administrator. Click Yes. Now that that's opened, I'm going to open up my PowerShell script. I'll attach it in the video description below so you can just download it. Once you have it on your desktop, just go to File, Open, and we'll click Create Users and open that. I'm going to enlarge this so it's easier to see. There's one thing that we need to do before we're able to run scripts. By default, running PowerShell scripts is set to restricted by default just to make sure that nothing malicious can run right off the bat. We'll go ahead and type a command that will give us access to running scripts on the server. Once we do, this will allow us to run scripts, and we'll just click yes to all here. So let's go over the script. I know it can look a little daunting right now, but it's actually pretty simple. We'll go over line by line so it makes it easier. The script starts off by defining two important variables for us. Think of variables like storage boxes for information the script will use later on. The first variable, passwords for users, which is right here, holds the default password we want to assign each new user. In our case, it's going to be password one, and it's the same password we've been using throughout this lab. The second variable, this users first last list, reads a text file called names.txt that contains a list of names. On this list, there is one name per line. Let me open this text file to show you exactly what I mean. Large that so it's easier. So this is a text file that has about 1,000 random names generated in it that we're going to be adding into Active Directory. Let's go ahead and add our name into this list. Let's go up to File and Save after you've done. So this is going to be a list that's going to be stored in this variable here. Pretty much it's saying get content, and it's getting it from this text file. This next line right here, in Active Directory, passwords can't just be stored in plain text. They must be secured strings. This line takes the password from our first box, which is password one, and transforms it into a secure format that Active Directory accepts. It encrypts the password so it's not in plain text. So it's just taking this one, password one, and encrypting it for each user because that same password is going to be assigned to all the users. This next line right here, we're going to be creating an OU called users. You can think of an OU like a folder in Active Directory where we store all the new accounts. We also turned off protection from accidental deletion so we can remove it later if needed. So this will be the OU name underscore users, and protected from accidental deletion will be set to false, meaning if we do need to delete it, this OU later, we won't have any issues. The next part of our script will now focus on our loop. A loop means that we're going to repeat the next steps for every name we get from our names.txt file. When we go through the loop, the end value relates to the current line. In our case, that means the current line is the name we're working on at that time. This is the list of all the users, and this is the current name that we're working on. The first thing we need to do in this loop is to determine the value of the first name variable as shown on the screen. In this case, this first variable, it's going to be taking the current name that we're working with. It will be, pull up the name file. So we'll use Charles Burney in this case, and it's going to be splitting the name into two parts. The zero identifies the first item, which in our case is the first name. In our example, it would be Charles, and the two lower part of the variable means that the name shouldn't be capitalized. For this first variable, it would be Charles. This last variable is going to be taking that same name, splitting it into two parts, and this one is for the second item, which would be Bernie, and it's making this into lowercase, so it would be Bernie. Then we have this username, and it's taking the first variable, which would be Charles. The substring means to start at the first character, and it's going to be in position 0, so it would be right before C, and this 1 means to take one character over, so that would be the first initial from the first name, and we're going to be putting it together with the last variable, which was just Bernie, so it would be C Bernie and all lowercase, and that would be for the username right here. The next line that we have is this write host here. This line just prints the message to the screen to let us know which name is currently being created here. And then this next part, this is where the magic happens. This is where the Active Directory command creates a new account in Active Directory for each user. It uses the variables that we have defined above and fills out what is needed to add users to Active Directory. It does this for each name from our txt file. So after that, now we can run the script and add all our users into Active Directory. I'm going to go ahead and delete this from here. Just going to save and we'll exit out of here and let's go ahead and run this command. So if we just go to run script, you'll see that we have an error after trying to execute this script. We'll just need to change the directory that we're currently in. So we'll just go into change directory and just type in the drive users and then whichever administrator account that you had set up. In my case, mine was administrator C. Bernie on the desktop where I have the folder currently. Push enter, you can see that now we're in a different directory. So all we have to do is go ahead and run the script like this command here. So when it says create the new user, it's showing us adding the users. The background is black here. The foreground color is that cyan color. The script will continue to run until all users have been added. I'll fast forward till the end to save time. Now that all the users have been added, let's go ahead and close out of here. Click X, go to our server manager, and if we go to manage, or actually go to tools, let's go to Active Directory users and computers. Expand this. Let's expand my domain. We can see the underscore users that we had set up in the script now show. And now we can see that all the users from that script show here. If we wanted to search for a specific user, we can always go right click and click find user that we had set up, Charles Burney, right here. If we want to look at properties, we can see Charles Burney and that display name or that username with that syntax that we defined in the PowerShell script, that C Burney is intact. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is let's go ahead and create a Windows 11 virtual machine in VirtualBox and then connect it to the domain. Now that we're on our host computer, let's go ahead and click on VirtualBox to open it. We'll go up and click New, and we're going to name our VM Client 1 here. We're going to click on the ISO image and choose the location. We had saved the ISO in a folder called ISOs on our desktop. So let's go ahead there, locate it, and click on Windows 11. Go ahead and unclick Proceed with Unintended Installation. Click on Specialized Hardware. We're going to assign ourselves 2 gigs for memory. If you don't have enough, you can always assign yourself less. And we'll keep the number of cores at 2. The next thing we'll do is click on Specified Virtual Hard Disk, and we'll assign ourselves 50 gigs. Then click Finish. Before we get started, let's click on General. And we'll go to Features, and for Shared Clipboard and Drag and Drop, we'll choose bidirectional for both, just like we did in our last VM. And we'll go to Network. And while we're here, we'll change it from NAT to internal so that our client can connect on the internal network. We'll click OK. We'll go up to client 1 and double click it to start it up. This will start the installation process. Now that we get to this screen, let's click Next and Install Now. When we get to this screen, we're going to click I don't have a product key. Since this is a lab, we're not going to be using a license. We'll click the terms and click Next. We'll click Custom Install since this is a clean install and we're not upgrading. And it's going to show us our hard drive that we set up earlier in VirtualBox. And this is the hard drive that we're going to install the OS to. So we'll go down to Next. This will take a while, so I'll fast forward. When we get to this screen, we'll click on US And then we'll go ahead and click yes. And we'll click yes for the US. And we'll click skip. When we come to this screen, go ahead and click set up for personal use and click next. When we come to this screen, we're going to have to enter a Microsoft account, unlike other editions of Windows where you could just use a local. They make you use a Microsoft account now. I'm going to log in with mine. I'll skip it for privacy reasons and see you when we log into the computer. After entering your Microsoft account, we're going to just unclick all this bloatware and click accept. We'll go ahead and skip this and click not now. We'll go ahead and say skip. We'll decline and decline. We'll unclick this and click next. We'll go ahead and skip. When we come to here, we'll log in with our Microsoft account. Now that we're logged into our account, let's go ahead and head over to our search bar and let's type in CMD. And we're going to open up a command prompt. We're going to want to test to see if our DNS and NAT is working. The first thing that we're going to do is type in ping Google. If we look at the results of that ping, we can see that 4 packets were sent and 4 were received. Let's go ahead and also ping our domain. This will ensure that DNS is working. So ping mydomain.com. And like the other ping, we had 4 sent and 4 were received. So this shows that DNS is working. And if we type in ipconfig, you can see that our IPv4 address is on the network of our internal, which is that 172.16.0, and our host ID is 101. Our subnet mask is at 255.255.255.0, and our default gateway, also the domain controller. The next thing that we want to do is connect to our domain. So we'll head over to the start and right click it. We'll go to settings. We'll scroll down and click about. And rather than renaming here, we're going to scroll down and click Advanced System Settings. Here we're going to go to computer name and go down to change here. This is to rename the computer or to change its domain or workgroup. Here we're going to rename our computer. Ignore this. Type in client 1. And we're going to click domain. This is where we're going to enter mydomain.com and click OK. On this screen, we're going to have to enter a username and password of an account that is in Active Directory on the domain. I'll use cbernie, which we added when I ran the PowerShell script. Once you've entered the credentials of a domain user, Windows will prompt you to restart your computer. When we come to this screen, instead of logging in with our Microsoft/local account, we're going to go over to Other User, and we're going to log in with a domain account. I'm going to use that cbernie account, enter my password, and you can see that we're signing into my domain. Now that we're logged into our computer with our domain account, let's go on over to our search bar. Let's type in CMD for command prompt and click on that. Now that command prompt's open, it's going to be very simple. Enter a command. It's going to be who am I? And it's going to show that we are connected to my domain with the domain account cbernie. Let's go ahead and click out of this. Let's go over to our DC. We'll log in. I'll show you how to get to the DHCP from the server manager. Go ahead to Tools and click DHCP. Let me expand this window. Let me expand here. And we'll go to IPv4. We'll click on the scope and go to the leases. And you'll see here that we have one lease, and that's for the client one computer that we just logged in with. And it gave it that 101 address. If you look and see, our scope is 100 to 200, and it gave it 101. Let's exit out of here. Let's go to our topology really quickly. If we look here, we've done quite a bit in this lab. We have installed both of our NICs, our internal and external. We set a static IP address. We configured Active Directory domain services and named our domain my domain. We configured RAS and NAT so internal devices can reach out to the internet through the domain controller. We've configured a DHCP server with a range of 172.16.0.100 through 200. And we also configured a Windows 11 computer and connected it to the domain. And we logged in with the domain user. This wraps up our Active Directory lab setup. We just built two VMs, one a domain controller and the other as a client, and configured DHCP, DNS, and Active Directory services. This gives us a solid foundation for future videos where we'll dive deep into group policy, user management, and more. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for what's next.